You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. Things are finally looking up for air traffic controllers. Sorry for the pun, we couldn't resist. That's because air traffic controllers are getting paid again, and full back pay could be arriving as early as next week. That's for the work they did during the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Air traffic controllers dominated headlines during the shutdown as they continued to work their stressful jobs without pay. Some of them took on side gigs to make up for lost income. And as the shutdown dragged on, controller shortages led to flight delays and cancellations across the country. Now things are slowly getting back to normal as the FAA lifts restrictions on air traffic ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. To hear more about how air traffic controllers are adjusting to life post-shutdown and ongoing issues with understaffing, we're joined now by Steph Winder. She's with the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, which is the union that represents these workers, and she's also been an air traffic controller since 2008. Steph, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So before I get into the shutdown, can you just kind of talk to me about your role with the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, or NATCA? What is NATCA, and what do you do with them?
NATCA, as you mentioned, National Air Traffic Controllers Association, we represent air traffic controllers and aviation safety professionals nationwide. I personally am the regional vice president for the Northwest Mountain region for NATCA. So I represent air traffic controllers throughout Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, and Utah.
So coming out of this shutdown, how are air traffic controllers feeling? I mean, the government is reopened. They went through a lot in this shutdown, and there's ongoing issues. Kind of what's the state of play right now? How are your members feeling?
A sigh of relief for sure, because now we are getting compensated for the work that we're doing. We've been critically staffed for a very long time. We're 3,800 controllers short nationwide. Most of the facilities with controllers that I represent are some of those critically staffed facilities. And coming out of this shutdown, we are just kind of preparing for what is going to happen at the end of January. Are we going to go into another shutdown? Are we going to be in this position again? Is this just a temporary pause? So that's also looming in the back of our minds.
What was the impact of the shutdown on the average air traffic controller? What did it mean for their day-to-day?
Well, it's a very stressful job already, and the critical staffing adds to that stress, working 6-day work weeks, 10-hour days, only having 4 days off in a month, year after year with no end in sight. And then the shutdown just added an unnecessary distraction, undue stress on controllers. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to put gas in my car? Um, how long is this going to last? Am I going to be able to, buy Christmas presents, have Thanksgiving dinner, travel to see my family, have my family come visit? So increasing stress on an already stressful, person in a profession that is very demanding, and we need to be 100% of the time.
When we saw the air traffic controller shortages during the shutdown being compounded by, the fact that some people without pay were calling out and having to deal with other life challenges, President Trump weighed in and wrote on Truth Social that he wanted air traffic controllers to be rewarded if they continue to come to work during the shutdown, to get bonuses. But he also wrote, all air traffic controllers must get back to work now, all caps. Anyone who doesn't will be substantially docked. Another quote, for those who did nothing but complain and took time off, even though everyone knew they would be paid in full shortly in the future. I am not happy with you. We've seen, of course, the president kind of lash out on social media before. What did it feel like for controllers who were already understaffed, as we've talked about, to be the subject of his ire?
We take an oath when we get hired as air traffic controllers, and we continue to show up. We showed up, during 9/11. We showed up during the pandemic when other people, were staying at home in order to move cargo, move people. And we continue to show up throughout this shutdown as well. Things are always going to happen. People get sick. Children get sick. There are situations where people have vacations planned. So I think that's a lot of what we saw. was just an added stress on this critically staffed system and how fragile it is.
People talk a lot about the issues with travel during a shutdown as being sort of that pain point that actually might have gotten Congress to act and to, come back and make a compromise. This was something that was talked about a lot in 2019 in the shutdown too, especially with Thanksgiving approaching. Maybe that was one of the impulses for those Democrats in the Senate to decide to work with Republicans. What do you make of kind of the power of air traffic controllers in these situations?
I think that the politicians handle the politics. Very flattering to think that we have the ability to do something like that, but at the end of the day, we don't get a vote. We can reach out to our representatives like any other constituent. However, at the end of the day, there's nothing that we can do to end the shutdown. That's for the politicians.
It's been about a week since that shutdown ended. Any lingering effects so far that are impacting air traffic controllers? And especially as we go into this Thanksgiving holiday, what are you watching for?
Right now, we're just kind of preparing to see what occurred during the course of the shutdown, still picking up the pieces there and analyzing the data there while preparing to do whatever we can to help prevent a shutdown at the end of January so that we don't have to go through all of this again.
Yeah, what does that do to morale to kind of say, okay, we got through this long stretch of no pay. We're getting into the really busy holiday season, and then there could potentially be another shutdown fight that arrives in the new year.
Yeah. I think that it makes new entrants into air traffic control who want to become certified professional controllers second guess their decision, or at least take a deep breath and think about, is this what I really want to do? If this is how it's going to be for the rest of my career, is this going to be an every 2 or 3 month thing, or is this going to be an every 2 or 3 year thing? Is that something that I can handle from, my financial perspective, from, my life and what I want out of it? So it's definitely engaged people in conversations like that I haven't seen before in this profession.
And what does that mean for recruitment, especially when there's already staffing challenges?
It's definitely a challenge. I mean, it's a very distinguished profession. We all take it very seriously. We're all very proud of what we do, serving the American people. And it is something that just takes that passion at the end of the day. And you kind of have to look past everything else that's going on in the world and say, is this really what I want to do? Is this really the right thing for me? And I think that it kind of narrows the pool for recruitment.
So we are guaranteed to see the federal government funded through January 30th, but the key issues that led to the last shutdown are still, a point of contention between Democrats and Republicans, health insurance subsidies, ongoing complaints that the Democrats have about how their Republican counterparts have clawed back funding that was already approved, things like that. I mean, this is, again, a very live issue that will likely come back in the new year. Any final thoughts here for folks who will be traveling this holiday season, for folks who are thinking about the plight of air traffic controllers amidst all of this?
We will continue to serve the American people, move the cargo, guide you home safely, do our best to get you there on time, while always keeping safety in mind. We have family and friends too that travel. We ourselves travel, so we understand the importance of it, and that's always at the forefront of every decision that we make.
Steph Winder is the Northwest Mountain Regional Vice President of NATCA, which is the union that represents air traffic controllers. Steph, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. This show is only possible because listeners support us. If you're able to give right now, please check out the show notes for a link to donate. And don't forget, you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org.